Good afternoon and welcome to the June 23rd, 2021 Gates County Board of Commissioners specially called meeting. I am Dr. Anthony Riddick, the 2021 Chair of the Board, and I'm joined this afternoon by Commissioner Ray Freeman, Commissioner Linda Hoffler, Commissioner Jonathan Jones, and County Manager Tim Wilson. I remind the viewing audience that all public meetings are live streamed and archived for viewing. You may also watch the YouTube channel. The links on the web are on the website. Additionally, only board-approved minutes are the official minutes of all meetings. At this time, I'm going to ask us all to stand and ask Commissioner Hoffler to lead us in prayer, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by the Commissioners.
Let us pray. Our Heavenly Father, thank you for all the blessings you bestowed on us individually and as the county and also on the county. Tonight we want to pause and thank you for our brave men and women who serve in our Sheriff's Department and as our first responders. Watch over them as they do their duties each and every day. They're here to help protect us as citizens, and it's a very stressful job that they don't know what they face when they get a call. So watch over and take care of them. In addition, we need to take a moment and pray for Timmy Hedgepath, a water supervisor who lost his father. We lift him up and help your loving arms to comfort him during this time of bereavement. And dear God, give each of us here on the Board of Commissioners wisdom and discernment as we try to make the decisions that are in the best interest of the county. Guide us and direct us as we go about our jobs. All these things we ask in thy name and for thy sake. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Very good prayer, ma'am.
Call this June 23rd, 2021 meeting to order. I will entertain a motion to enter into closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A, 6 personnel.
So moved. Second that motion, Madam Chairman.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're in closed session. I remind the audience that we're in session, the feed will go down, and when we come out, it will be live again around 6:30. Thank you. Good afternoon. May I have a motion to exit closed session?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're now out of closed session. On the agenda, we have chairman updates, and the first on the agenda is Gates County Community Center. And someone in the audience asked about public comments, but this is a special called meeting, and we do not have public comments during a special call meeting. Our next regular meeting will be July 21st. So I will give you two updates. The first one is Gates County Community Center. And I took some talking points, so I won't forget things. As you all probably know, the current Community Center Director, Ms. Lulu Ewer, is set to retire effective July 1st, 2021. The Superintendent, Dr. Williams, previously raised the question of taking the opportunity to have the community center managed by a county employee instead of a school board employee. I have had some discussion with Dr. Williams regarding this issue and the community center in general. And also, Dr. Williams has spoken with some of the board. I share some concerns that I have about whether the community center is getting full use and benefit of the center for all citizens. I firmly believe that the community center needs to offer more programs focused on all citizens, especially seniors in our community, as well as youth. We should offer training for our seniors, especially in the technology field. We also need to remember that the operation of the community center is funded by the taxpayers in Gates County, whether it is managed by a school employee or county employee. And we need to make sure that we provide for the needs of all citizens. I've spoken with Mr. Felton, who is the chair of the Board of Education, and we share that view. Mr. Felton, as chair of the Board of Education, has also had conversation with the superintendent, Dr. Williams, about this, and he has conversation with the new county manager about this as well, Mr. Tim Wilson. Mr. Tim Wilson has been here since May 3rd, so we was talking with him because he didn't know the background. He's new to the county, so we brought him up to speed. Mr. Felton and I agreed to discuss this with our respective boards and see if we can all put our heads together and find a way to better use the community center for the whole community. This also gives the school system an opportunity to transition out of the management and responsibility for managing the community center. Dr. Williams shared with me that he is the only superintendent in the state that oversees a community center. Now, the Board of Education met last Wednesday evening, I believe, June 16th. We were meeting at the same time. We had a Board of Commissioner meeting, and they were meeting with their regular board last Wednesday. And the board decided to request a joint meeting with the county commissioners to discuss the future of the community center. And I'm in full support of that. We don't need to be operating as two separate boards trying to make a decision about the community center. So I'm in favor of that. I've spoken to the chair, Mr. Felton, about that, and we will be discussing this in just a minute when I finish my comments, so the board will have a chance to weigh in. With Ms. Lulu Ewer retiring and the school system having to find a replacement for her, this is the perfect opportunity to transition the management of the community center. Now, there are concerns that we should address and consider as part of this discussion. First, we needed to make sure that we can legally transfer the management of the community center away from the Board of Education to the county. The school board attorney, Mr. John Leidy, thoroughly researched that possibility, and I understand that his opinion is that we can do just that without violating any restrictions or obligations that either the school system or the county has under an agreement or document. And let me just say that he has also spoken with our county attorney, Mr. Pitt Godwin. He was supposed to be here this afternoon, but I got a message about 4:30, 4 o'clock that he was ill, and so he's at home. But they have been working as the attorneys, because these are legal matters. I'm not an attorney. No one on this board is an attorney. Sometimes we think we are, but we're not. So the county attorney and the school board's attorney have been working on this legal question, and they feel that we are in good stead. Another concern is making sure that we protect the school system's right to full use, access, and benefit of the community center and athletic fields, and that their use and needs are given first priority regardless of who's managing the community center. I propose that a memorandum of agreement be drafted by the school board attorney and the county attorney, assuring that the school system have priority in scheduling athletic fields. That said, proper and appropriate policies, rules, and processes should be carefully and fairly crafted to ensure all citizens have access and use of the facilities. And said operations should be monitored, reported, and evaluated. In that memorandum of agreement that the attorneys will work on with input from both boards and citizens, I also requested of Dr. Williams that in consideration of the ball fields and other facilities at the community center, that we also ensure that we have access to computer lab so that we can teach technology skills and workshops until we can get ourselves together. There's nowhere in that community center to do that. And the school system have numerous technology labs. So in that memorandum of agreement, I'm going to ensure that the school system is held harmless, that, they're not going to lose anything, but we got to gain something. We have to have access to a computer lab appropriately so that we can teach workshops for seniors and anyone else. We just got a grant called Band North Carolina, and it's called Senior Tech, where we're going to be running workshops in the afternoons and weekends for senior citizens to learn to use their devices, their electronic devices, learn how to do Zoom and anything else, telehealth. We have to do that for our community, for our seniors, and there's nowhere to do that. So I'm going to insist that that be in that draft. We also need to make sure that the current employees who work at the community center and will remain on after Ms. Ewell retires are taken care of. Those discussions will be led by Mr. Leidy and Mr. Godwin, the attorneys, and may need to be discussed in closed session as it may concern confidential personnel matters. Mr. Felton and I are in agreement that there will be a joint meeting, again, of both boards to build out the plan and answer questions proposed by both boards. One of the sticking points that we have right now that John Leidy, the attorney for the school board, and Mr. Godwin, the county attorney, are looking at is retirement, because they're two different systems. And so we want to make sure we're not doing anything that's detrimental, but we're still going to have to move forward. So we're going to look at that. What can we do to make sure that we, if we can, not inadvertently unaware. We don't want any unforeseen consequences. So we're doing the due diligence. So the attorneys know that we want to know that answer to that. Is there an answer? If not, what's an option? So we have options on the table with that. Now, everyone concerned knows that time is running short because July 1st is coming. And it's not realistic for us or the Board of Education to make change or have the county hire a new employee to manage the new community center before July 1. So in speaking with Dr. Williams will appoint an interim and inform the Board of Education on Tuesday, June 29, 2021 at their next board meeting. So he assured me that an interim will be appointed and manage or direct the operations of the community center beginning July 1, which is Ms. Lulu Yule's last day. And as we're doing all of this, we're going to do our due diligence to make sure that we're doing this right for the citizens. I think this is an opportunity for all of us to make sure that we are doing the right thing for the school system and the entire county. I also think that it's important that we make sure that we all are on the same page for the county. I know that Mr. Felton discussed these same issues with his board. The last time this subject was discussed, there were questions, and rightfully so. As you can hear and see, many of the questions and concerns have been addressed. I'm sure you have additional questions for me, and I'm here to take those questions down. If I can answer them, I will. And I'm talking to the board members. I'm not talking to the audience. So don't y'all jump. This is for the board members to ask questions so I can take the questions down. If I can answer them, I will. But I've had a phone conversations with the chair of the school board, Mr. Felton, and the superintendent, the lead administrator in the county for the school system, and with Mr. Wilson. He's going to work with the superintendent because they are the two lead administrators in this endeavor. You have the school system, and then you have the county. You have two attorneys that are working together. You have two board chairs that are working together. and we're going to bring both boards together at some point, sooner than later, so that they can ask more questions, or we may have some questions that we can gather. I'm quite sure that the school board have questions, as this board is going to have in a few minutes. And if we can't answer those questions, I'm not going to try to answer questions if because someone asks me a question, I will take that question down and get the right answer, the correct answer. But we did the due diligence. The first thing we wanted to make sure was, can we do this? The answer came back, yes. Are we on the same page as far as collaboration? The answer came back, yes. Is there a need for the community center to really be a community center? Yes. Not saying anything in the past was done wrong. That's not what we're saying. But moving forward, there are more opportunity to have more programming, more activities, more than just athletics. Athletics important, not saying it's not. I love football, basketball, soccer, tennis, skateboarding. I can't skateboard, but I love watching other people do it. You know, all of that. I love that. And that's going to stay. But there's more to Gates County than athletics. There's a whole population, about 15%, senior citizens, and they are clamoring for somewhere to gather. And we know that we have to do this, some of the things after hours. Senior citizens don't want to do anything after 2 o'clock. They get up at 9, they go to bed at 2. I'm just playing. But we need to make sure that they have an opportunity for wellness programs. I keep hearing about seniors, sneakers? I don't know what that is. But anyway, senior sneakers, telehealth, all these things, they just don't want to play bingo. But that takes forward thinking. It takes someone in their programming to make sure that it's scheduled appropriately and monitored and rules are followed so that we can have a community center. And not saying anything is wrong, I congratulate Ms. Ewer for her retirement. She put her time in, and she's run the community center for all those years, and we thank her as a board. I'm going to thank her for what she has done. But as we have opportunity to transition forward, I think that's what we need to do. Now, we don't have the board clerk with us. Mr. Tim Wilson has agreed to note some things, but it's being recorded, so we can always go back and do the minute. But he's making notes about things that we're talking about or discussing here. So at this time, I'm going to open it up to the board members to ask questions or have comments at this time.
Madam Chair, I apologize for not making it back with a minute late, but did I understand, missing the first part, that you alluded to that there is a memo of agreement between the county and the school board being worked on per the... No.
I said there's a plan to work on a memorandum of agreement once the two boards start meeting so that we can get things on a new agreement. But there's nothing being worked on. There's no draft. There's no crafting. It's just that that's what I said that we're going to do. We have not made any plans except for do the due diligence to figure out can we do this before we start sitting down talking about doing it. And what we have done is gotten the legal opinion from John Lighty and Mr. Godwin that yes, we can go ahead with this. They're working on the personnel issue as far as their retirement. That seems to be a sticking point because it's two different systems. You have the school system, then you have the county system. They're working on that. We're looking at, to recap, we're looking at the superintendent. Spoke with him yesterday, and he's going to appoint an interim at their next meeting, which is June 29th, next week. He's going to announce who the interim is to run the community center after Ms. Lulu Ewer leaves on July 1st, which is, I think, the next day, or 2 days later. So, but as far as anything in writing, no. That's going to wait because we're going to call a meeting of both boards. We're going to be in session with the school board, and we get to talk and discuss and to build out and say we need this, we need that, and we will have input into the memorandum of agreement just like the school system would have their desires or wants or needs in that memorandum of agreement in open agreement.
And the school board, they have decided that they want to transfer?
As far as I know, yes. When I talked to Mr. Ray Freeman, I see Leslie sitting back there, but I talked to Mr. Ray Freeman, Excuse me, Ray.
You told me
Ray
to.
Felton, not him. Ray Felton, I spoke with him this week. The day is Wednesday. I think I spoke with him on Monday, and I spoke with the superintendent yesterday. They met last Wednesday night, and that was on their agenda, and we are moving forward with the transition. So that's all I know. Now, when we meet as a joint board, we'll decide. I'm just saying what I was been informed. I asked questions, they answered the question. And if there's not going to be a transition, somebody better have a good reason why we cannot do this for the citizens of Gates County. And that's when we're going to have the public. Now, you ask about comments, that's when you're going to get your comments. Because this is a community of citizens. That is a community center. And the current agreement, or yes, it's an agreement, ends in 2024, I think. Was it?
I believe I've heard that.
Yeah, the
Madam
part
Chairman.
of, the part
The
of.
part, yep. It ends anyway in 2024. What we were trying to do is, since it's going to end anyway in 2024, and we have a transition of the director, it's a good time to start focusing on moving forward. Why wait to 2024 when you have this transition going on anyway? Now, I'm not trying to convince anybody to do anything. These are my talking points. The negotiation is going to be between the two boards and the citizens of Gates County. So these are my talking points, and that's why I'm doing this, because they had their meeting, they had their talking points, I've got my talking points, and we're setting it up for both of us to come together as two boards to sit down and figure out what's best for the citizens of Gates County going forward, not what we always have done. There are more citizens in this county than the youth. So I write that down. We want to make sure that we get that straight as far as, is this going to happen or not? Make sure you put a stop beside that. But I'm just asking a question. And somebody got to do something about this light.
You in the spotlight.
I know.
You gotta change the meeting time.
That's
The
glory,
sun
that's
changes.
glory shining on you right now.
Yes. Well, it's supposed to be a special moon, what, tomorrow night?
Leslie Byram's
Let's
head
not
shining.
digress. Get back to the questions and answers or whatever. Any other comments or questions?
I just
Yeah.
think, oh, go ahead, Ray.
No, ma'am.
No, you go.
Well, I was just gonna piggyback on something you said because of the two different systems. I know, and in hearing that in the past, that because of the retirement system versus the state versus the county, and I think that's what has been a bugaboo for a while.
Well, I can't spell bugaboo, but that's something that the attorney's going to work on and see what they come up with. And when you're dealing with two systems, when you're dealing with Raleigh, when you're dealing with retirement, it is what it is. If it comes back, we can't touch it, it's going to stay like it is, and somebody's going to have to make some decisions. But that's not going to be a game stopper.
I have for a long time thought the building, that. the
Talking to
cen-
Mike.
Ooh, excuse me. I have thought for a long time that the building, or the center has been underutilized. I know that there has been numerous requests for the Silver Sneakers. That's a program for seniors where they can go, and it helps about insurance and various things if you are in a program, which it's more than just exercise. There are some nutrition elements and all that, I think, to it. I'm not exactly sure, but it is a popular program, and it's in many of the community centers across the state of North Carolina. So I think it is an opportunity to make the building more usable to more of our population, and I hope that we can work out the transition.
Oh, any more comments? Any more comments or questions? Now, I need the questions so I can have someone do the research to get the right answer, not the answer that we want, the answer that we need.
Well, again, Madam Chairman, everyone now currently is under the school system of state retirement, am I correct in assuming that?
I think so. I'm going to check on that because what I'm hearing is that we have 2 employees that are currently under the school system retirement. 3? I know 2. 4. We're going to, 4, 3, I see 3 and I see 4. 4, okay, we have 4. That has to be worked out with the attorney. I'm not gonna pretend that I know anything about retirement. I just retired, I only know my retirement. But we're gonna look into it, and whatever we find out, it is what it is. We can't make the system do anything against, because we want something to happen with someone that we employ. But we're not gonna do it intentionally. We just gotta figure out, okay, what are the options? If this is it, what are the options? How can we help as a county? Not putting it out there, just talking, saying, these are things we're currently gonna have to work on. We've worked on a lot of it. From my comments, you hear it. They have done their due diligence. We let the attorneys handle it. We allow the superintendent to lead it because I stayed out of it. I stayed out because it's in their ballpark right now. So they led it. I followed. I listened. I asked questions. If the board remembers, they had conversations with them as well. A representative, they did. But we stopped because we had questions. So what we do, instead of waiting till the last minute, we did our due diligence because July 1st is coming. The 2024 is coming. You know, we just try to get this out there so we can meet and not start again, just have something on the table.
Do you know how many employees are employed by the community center?
There's 4, but there's getting ready to be 2.
I understand that one of the employees, Miss Lulu is retiring, of course, she's made that known July 1st, so I'm not talking out of turn. There's another one that's supposed to retire in August, I believe. So that's 2 leaving, 2 left.
Okay.
And one of my biggest concerns, because I think that I can say that I have one of the biggest vested interests, because I've been out there more over the last number of years, the maintenance of the facility. We hear something every year in the budget about wanting more maintenance folks for the county, and I don't know if we have the staffing for all the maintenance issues. That's something that I would, think about from being in there. That's something that need to be to address in an MOU possibly.
County manager is writing that down, and that's a good point. We have to do some upgrades, at that facility. It's not up to par. Some of the equipment needs to be replaced. I am in conversation with a representative trying to get appropriation for a senior center. That's how I have to tie it to that, because renovation dollars are another whole, what that word you said, boogeyman, whatever.
Bugaboo.
Bugaboo.
Tim could spell that now. He put that in the minutes.
So what I'm doing, I'm approaching it from a different angle. I'm approaching it from an angle of a senior citizen. We are one of only 2 counties that don't have a senior center at all. You have 100 counties, and we're one of 2 that don't have anywhere for our seniors to go. So that's how I've been on the phone doing some legwork, trying to figure out how do we get, even though we have ARP money and all this other kind of money coming from wherever with the budget, if they ever pass it, we're watching that very carefully. But what I'm trying to do is make sure that we can identify some extra dollars tied to a senior citizen code. That's the need. I can tie it to the need. Everybody else got one. I'm a simple-minded person. I may not get any money, but I'm going to keep on trying until we do, because we have equipment, so I understand that needs to be replaced. We have some maintenance, again, for that building. The building is old. I keep hearing about a roof and no air conditioning and this and that. No. So this is a work in progress. Even if we said right now we're going to do it, it's not going to happen overnight, but you have to plan. You heard me talk about planning before. I plan. And I'm trying to get the citizens of Gates County to understand the people, the counties who are moving forward, they had a plan 5 years ago. They had a plan 10 years ago. So what you're seeing them doing now, they planned for it. So maybe when we do this together, it's going to have to be a plan, not just a piece of paper with a memorandum of agreement. We're going to have some action items and some funding and identify that and work together to do it. The Board of Commissioners can't do it alone. The Board of Education can't do it alone, but all the citizens pay taxes. And I hear them about a community center that's not serving or underserving all the citizens of Gates County. So I hope that we can work together and put our personal wants aside or our personal interests aside and think about the citizens of Gates County who want to have somewhere to gather. All of us, not just, and we're gonna make sure, let me say this before I close, we're gonna, because I know what y'all gonna do, we're gonna make sure that the school system continue to have the activities and the access they need to run their program, their day program, their after-school program, whatever they need to, but we have to share the space appropriately. That's all we're asking. That's all the chair, Mr. Felton's asking, I'm asking, the superintendent, Tim Wilson, and the attorneys. That's all we're trying to do, get as many of these questions answered. And if you have input, please, please, talk to the board, or chair, Mr. Felton, or the superintendent, or talk to Mr. Wilson or to me. It's not going to do us any good to run around trying to solve problems at the kitchen table. You have to be at the board table. You have to be in the audience when we have that meeting, and send your questions in, your comments. I love comments as long as you're not mean-spirited. But I read them because they're your comments. But think about it, okay? Any other questions or comments before I move on to the second?
Just one other comment, I'm not trying to
Go ahead.
but just for the purpose of us in recalling, and primarily for our citizens who are paying attention and keeping up with it, is that Dr. Williams and Mrs. Ure came before us as a board last year and brought forth the expenses, how much it would be. And I want to say that at that time, they may have been asking for $15,000. I don't think it was an astronomical amount, if I recall. So I just want to bring that up for those that may have heard it.
And those around the table that have history and have documentation of things that we need to do that have been discussed before, please bring that and share that with, so everyone can understand where we were, so we know where we have to go. You know, and let me say this, and I got to close, but just because we couldn't do something 5 years ago doesn't mean we can't do it now. Situations change, seasons change, resources change, opportunity change. We have a lot of opportunity with revenue that people are trying to send to the counties. We have to be intentional about our planning, and the senior center and the community center must be part of that planning, because that's a human resource we cannot neglect. Our citizens are our most valuable resource, and we have to make sure that they are well, and they have activities, and they feel valued, that we are thinking about them as well, because they pay taxes too. So as we sit together as two boards and the citizens, please be mindful that, you know, sometimes your interest is not the interest of the majority of the citizens, and the majority of the citizens sometimes are quiet because they trust us to do the job, okay? So send in your comments. I'll get back with Mr. Felton, and he'll set with his board, and then I'll come back and say, okay, what's the date that we can meet with the school board and where we're going to meet? It's going to be done transparent. Now, everybody use that word transparent. Sometimes you're so transparent, you see right through it. It's not as transparent as you think. So we're going to try to do this openly, honestly, and for the citizens, all the citizens of Gates County. It's a community center. The second is the Historic Monument Committee and the celebration. You remember we had a Confederate Monument Committee chaired by Mr. Lee Brooks. We call him Mo. And we accepted their recommendation. And we are having another monument made with wording on it that they suggested. And then he also mentioned that they would like to have the commissioners to consider having an unveiling of the monument when it's complete, and also to have some kind of celebration. Well, we heard them. I heard them. I talked to Mr. Brooks yesterday, good conversation, and I asked him to share with the committee that I would be giving updates tonight, so if they wanted to log in or come and see, you know, they wouldn't catch them by surprise that we were talking about. I wanted them to be aware, so I asked him to do that, because he's the chair of that committee. And so the update is I called Davis Monument. They're the ones that's creating or doing the monument for us. And I called them this morning to get an update. I couldn't get them yesterday, but I got them this morning, and I said, okay, when will the monument be ready? They said 60 to 120 days. So, because we got all this wording, I said, like, particularly, she said, you know, the size and all of that, and you gotta get the wording, whatever. So I said, okay, well, that's where that stands, and I will continue to have the county manager check on that in, you know, intervals. I just took it upon myself this morning because I knew he was getting ready for something. So that's the update as far as the monument itself. Get my notes. Excuse me. The county paid a price of about $4,000. We approved that expenditure to get the monument created. And I also engaged the county manager when he first arrived May 3rd. I had the temporary clerk to call Davis to see where it was because I wanted to know, because this was way back in April. So I asked the county manager to start looking at an appropriate place to place the monument, hopefully close to the Confederate monument for reference. You know, you don't want to cut one here and one, you know, no. So place it on county property, and he's going to do that appropriately, you know, choose a place that, you know, it can be placed once it's delivered, because once it's delivered, that's it. I mean, we don't have to move it. So he's going to look for a preferable place close to the historical Confederate monument in order to provide contextual reference. The committee also recommended a ceremony, an unveiling ceremony of the new monument, okay? So, and at the time, everybody nodded, you know, we wanted the recommendation, we said, and we nodded, but now we need motion, we need a motion because, and this is what we need to do, we need to have an unveiling, and Mr. Brooks and the committee wanted to be dignified, professional, we can do that. We cannot choose a date right now because we don't know when the monument's going to be ready, but at least we can start planning how it looks, who does what, as far as the program, the speaker, where it's going to be held and all of that. Of course, it's going to be held where the monument is. You know, wherever it is, that's where we got to be, go unveil it. That's a no-brainer. But we did not take action and say, okay, this is what we're going to do. All we did was nod. We took his recommendation, we approved that. You know, the motion was made by Commissioner Jones, and somebody seconded it, and off we went. Now I'm circling back around because I heard him. I heard the committee say, and we agree, we were nodding. So the first thing I want to know is about the ceremony, as far as holding the ceremony. But we don't need to get into the details. It's just the motion, I think, that we're going to do this is appropriate, County Manager?
Yes.
Because I don't have any direction to do this. I'm just circling back around, trying to get, you know, what the committee desire approved by the Board of Commissioners. Discussion?
To jump maybe a step or so aside on that too, have they been paid or?
The monument? Oh, yes.
Do we have to give them something up front or?
No, we paid for, I
We paid
asked
for
that question this morning. They received payment. They've got the invoice, you know, everything. So it's paid, it's just making the monument. So we don't owe anything on the monument.
And then, as I recall too, I believe Mr. Brooks mentioned something about a unity, that unity
Let's
get-together.
do one thing at a time. Let's do the unveiling first. It's on my list. I've got it on the list.
So
All
would
right.
you want a motion that we approve, that to hold a unveiling of the Confederate monument when it is completed? Is that what kind of motion you would want?
It's nothing around there because we need to make sure that we are on the same page and that I have instructions from the board to go forward with this. I don't have any instructions to go forward with this. All I have is, we said we were going to do it. And when I talked to Mr. Brooks yesterday, he said, that's why I called him. Because I told him, I said, I can't do that until I get permission from the board to move forward with the planning of and unveiling of that monument when it's ready.
Can we make a motion in advance that once we receive the monument, we'll have the unveiling?
You can make I think the motion should be that we will schedule an unveiling of the monument once the date is known.
Yeah, when it's delivered.
I'll make that advance motion, if you will, or the motion for the advance, that when the monument is completed, that we arrange with the Monument Committee an unveiling.
I'll second that motion.
Any other discussion, or are we ready to vote? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Now, I did share with Mr. Brooks that, you know, his committee would be intricately involved in that because they did the work, and I want them to have input. And we'll have another discussion about a planning committee, because you got to plan it. You just don't say, "I'm going to unveil a monument." You got to have a planning committee. You got to have some kind of program. Nothing long and elaborate, but you got to have planning. So I just needed to get that motion so we know that we have permission to move forward with that. And we'll talk about this at another time as far as the details and who's going to do what, okay? The third thing Mr. Brooks mentioned was, during his presentation, was the committee requested holding a community-wide celebration. And again, we nodded. And I did send, I circled back around about a month ago, maybe a month and a half ago, about a celebration and asked the commissioners for input about an idea that I had while serving on the Gates Partnership for Health Board. They have a fun day. I think most of you are familiar with that. They didn't have it this past year because of the pandemic, but they have what they call a fun day, where they just do things around health and wellness. And so when I was sitting in that meeting on Zoom, I thought about Mr. Brooks and what he said. He wanted, not him, the committee, and we agreed we needed some kind of unity celebration of that phenomenal job that they did, and the community accepted that we needed to celebrate. And since they're having a fun day, I brought up in that meeting, I said, let's partner with our resources, because, you know, the resources are always slack, especially financial and human. Well, Shayla Hayes, who's the chair of that committee, or president, whatever the title is, and the others on that line that day liked the idea. So I shared it with the board, and what we want to do, or scheduled to do, is whenever that fun day is, it's in the fall, and that's perfect because we don't have the monument. I thought the monument be ready in the summer, and it's not going to be ready. That when we work together with them to pool our resources, what does that mean? Our financial resources that we have available and our human resources that we have. People who used to work on Swamp Fest, I think Commissioner Jones mentioned that, you know, he's working on Swamp Fest. I see Reba and others have remember that we're not doing a Swamp Fest. That's a little big, that's a little much. That's in the future. But we need to come together with them, because they could do the wellness piece and we could do the fun piece. And they have resources, we have resources. What I did discover by talking to others, and especially to Ray and to Reba, Ms. Green Holly, is that there was funds left over when they shut down Swamp Fest. About $13,000, I believe. Might be 15 by now. About $15,000. Now, we're not going to spend $15,000. But what I'm saying is that's a pot of money, because it's a county-wide function, could be used, some of that money, to help us not just do a cookout. You know, he said, you know, I read what he said. He would like the county to conduct a ceremony to unveil the new monument and to consider hosting a cookout for the public to coincide with that event. We can do a cookout and have some fun, but we need to pool our human resources, because we don't have a staff at the commissioners to do things. We just don't. We have the county staff, but we don't have people to do that. So what I'm asking now, is this something you want to go forward with as far as a unity celebration? I don't know what we're going to call it. We're not going to get in the weeds right now. But we nodded our head again. I think we could do one day. If we don't do one day, it's going to be 2 days. It's going to be a fun day, then another day. Put both days together. Instead of having a fun day, then turn around and have another event, that's one, you know, it's not a good use of resources, I don't think. I may be wrong. If I'm wrong, y'all will vote it out and be done with it, and we can move on, but we need to do something. Now, Jonathan was the only one, Commissioner Jones, that sent in a response, and I kept it, and we'll circle back around to that, not today. But if any of the other commissioners want to send in something from that email I sent a month ago, 2 months ago, I don't know when it was, but I kept it. That's fine. So we're trying to have a unity day or something to celebrate the phenomenal work that the citizens did on the committee and that the citizens accepted as a county.
I have a question.
Mhm.
Yeah, okay, the wellness thing that we have done has always been out at the community center, which we need, because you got to have a lot of room. And so I can see that happening down there and having, whatever you, the fun and the wellness together. But the unveiling.
It's in Gatesville.
It's in Gatesville.
It's in Gatesville.
It would have to be a null location, and would it be a null day, or, not just at some time?
The unveiling would take, first, we would do the unveiling, this is just me talking, we would do the unveiling, get that, whatever that looks like, get that done, and move down to the community center.
Yeah, because you can't
I-
have a large crowd in
Yep.
this area.
I-
I mean,
that-
yeah, like parking and what.
That's another discussion. I really, I need a motion that we move forward with the Unity Day. I mean, then those details can
Yeah.
be worked out later.
Go ahead, Linda, I'm sorry, go
No,
ahead.
I was just saying, I just think it's, that we need, it's wonderful to do both, but I don't think they can be
The logistics,
different. I mean.
right.
Because this would be a much smaller crowd, that would be a much larger crowd. And it's just that Gatesville couldn't handle that.
You're talking about having to shut down the road and stuff, and
Yeah.
working with the town of Gatesville.
I just don't see that. I see,
But.
and it's that's going to be a dignified unveiling. I mean, whatever. And, the other one is fun and health.
I see what you're saying.
And I know, Madam Chair, you said we'd circle back, but I am going to disagree with tying it in. I think that it'd be a better use of our resources tying it into the National Night Out, which is tied into our local law enforcement already. And we're having one for the first time this year in August that we all got an email about from the chair of that board or the committee. I think that's an event that they're looking for donations already. And I know that it was mentioned at the March last year that I wasn't at, that was one of the things that Reverend Wiggins talked about, was having a cookout next year, which is now this year. And I think, my opinion, nothing against the Gates Partners for Help, because I have participated in their events and been in the Duncan booth a couple of times, that it would be a better use of our resources to tie in with the National Night Out, which ties into our local law enforcement and brings law enforcement with the citizens together. With the topic that we're talking about celebrating, it would be a good night for that, in my opinion.
And you're still, excuse me.
Go
Madam
ahead.
Chairman, and still two events,
That's right, there'll still be the unveiling, but the Unity Cookout would be a part of the National Night Out event.
Well, I hear you, make the note, and I'll put my 2 cents in. The National Night Out is a national night out. It's a different focus than trying to celebrate what that committee did as far as unity with all the heavy lifting we had to do with the Confederate monument. That's why it's tied like that. That's just my opinion, and we can discuss this, but I just want a motion that we move forward with some kind of event. Write that Commissioner's comment and Commissioner Jones down, Jones and Commissioner Freeman down. But when you talk about the National Night Out, that's a national, it's focused on law enforcement. It's not focused on bringing the county together to celebrate what the phenomenal job this committee did as far as bringing this county together around a monument that could have been very divisive. It could have just been so divisive, and it wasn't like that. And so we need to make sure that is there. What better tie-in with wellness, with senior citizens and all the other citizens, with a fun day? They call it Fun Day. But that's up for discussion. Right now, I just need a motion to move forward for further discussion, because it's not going to happen right now. And again, the citizens can weigh in.
Madam Chairman, I'll try to put a motion together.
I want to hear it.
I'd like to make a motion that we devote the event into two separate entities. One at the monument itself, and then one at the community center for a fun event.
There's a motion on the floor. I don't know what you said, but anyway.
And that we want to go start planning for these events.
We have to start, yeah.
Okay, I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second on the floor. I hope you got that, County Commissioner. He's our scribe this afternoon. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
1 nay, Mr. Jones, and 3 yays, because I have 1 vote. So we will move forward with the planning, and we welcome all input from the citizens, especially the Confederate Monument Committee. I will be calling Mr. Brooks again. I told him it probably wouldn't be this week, but I'm quite sure he's either listening, or he will listen, or he'll see it on Facebook. And I welcome all inputs so we can get moving on these 2 items. One, the community center, and the other, the historic monument. Moving on to new business. Mr. County Manager, did you find out any information that we requested?
Get back to the board had discussed, we have vacancies, actually 3 vacancies on the Board of Adjustments, which require action by this board. 2 of those vacancies are alternate members, with the third being a regular member. The board has received applications and has reviewed applications, and it is my understanding that there is consensus by the board to appoint Michelle Badgett to a full term as a regular member to the Board of Adjustments, and to appoint Gilbert Jenkins and Elizabeth Hendricks to full terms serving as alternate members to the Board of Adjustments.
Okay. So we have Michelle Badgett as the full member of the Board of Adjustment, Gilbert Jenkins as an alternate, and Elizabeth Hedrick as an alternate. So that does satisfy those vacancies that we have?
I make a motion, we approve those appointments.
And I'll second that motion. And I'd also like to just follow up with a little bit of a question, if I could. The research was not, there was no deterrent.
No conflicts.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Are we ready to vote? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, I see Ms. Cherry sitting there, so thank you. Then we have a motion on the floor. I need a motion for the approval of the salary.
I'd like to make a motion at this time that the Director of Social Services salary be no more than $65,500.
Motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion, Madam Chairman.
Ready to vote? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Also, there's a vacancy on the Board of the Department of Social Services. That's an appointee by the commissioners. That will be advertised beginning hopefully tomorrow. So watch the paper, the website, and social media. And that appointment will be made at our next regular meeting, I do believe. Is that
2 vacancies. 2 vacancies.
2 vacancies, one by internally with the Department of Social Services, and one is a commissioner appointment. So we welcome all applicants to apply. It's on the website. If you have trouble downloading it, just call the clerk to the board or the county manager, and they'll help you do that. Okay. Any other business? I see no more business on this special meeting. At this time, since this is a special meeting, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Excellent. Excellent.
Yeah,
Excellent.
I